Hello lovebirds, TonyaTko here, and today is Woman to Woman Wednesday, and on Woman to Woman Wednesday we talk about women's issues from a woman to another woman. And as you know, I'm your big sister, and I'm here to impart the knowledge and the wisdom that I learned the hard way so that you don't have to. And if you're not on the mailing list for my book, it's called Lessons from a Motherless Child, 10 Most Crucial Secrets About Love, Sex, and Self-Esteem. I learned the hard way so that you don't have to. And these videos are not intended for men to watch. It's just for us girls. And today we're going to talk about the topic men ain't SHIT and who needs them. So let's get right into today's topic. And if you have any future topics that you'd like to suggest, please come over to my website, which is written right here, TonyaTko.com. Click on the contact button and submit your topic. You never know when something you submit will become a future video. Also, a lot of the topics that you suggest, I'll post either on my website in a discussion or on my Facebook page or both, and see which topics pick up traction. Excuse me. And today I wanted to talk about, a lot of the man bashing and woman bashing that's been going on. But from woman to woman, I know that a lot of and I realized this, from starting to do the man day videos and the difference in the way that men communicate and the way women communicate. I know that if we'd like to enact social change, a lot of the social change is going to have to take place at the base or in the hands of women and spread out from there, because we are the gatekeepers. And I talked about this in the video, 6 Ways to Choose a Man. So please go and look at that video as well. But we women, we're the gatekeepers. So a lot of the change that's going to enact has to begin with us, and it spreads out from us because we are the mothers of civilization. So let's talk. Men ain't SHIT. As a woman, I need you to take the time right now to go back, way, way back, and see, where did this idea that men are not crap, where did this idea begin? Did this begin in your household with your father? The things that you saw your brother or your uncles doing? Did it start with the very first little boy who liked you? Or did it start with the very first boy who broke your heart? And this is a phenomenon that I've been toiling over and over in my mind. It seems like every single person that I've ever spoken to has had their heart broken. And I wonder how. Why is it that every single person has gotten to a point in their life or in their childhood where their heart has gotten decimated by another human being? And if you look back, and you know what, there's a documentary called The Science of Attraction. And in the documentary, The Science of Attraction, and I talk about this sometimes in my video, the people have not they did this experiment where they put numbers on the people's head from 1 to 10, and the people had to search around and get the highest number that they could, not knowing what their number was, but just based on the reaction of the people to their number, and how it lined up with how other people were treating the other person. You can imagine, if you don't know your number and you're trying to get the highest number, you would have to see how other people react to other people's numbers to know, what that person's number is, etc., etc. So let's get into how people end up getting their hearts broken. It is my belief that somewhere along the lines, because if you think about the very first boy who liked you, did you give him a chance? I don't know. You know that. And I think what happens is the point that I was trying to make with the documentary with The Science of Attraction is that in order for us to know our worth, in order for us to know our worth, how attractive we are, rather, we seek out the best that it is that we can get. And the best that we can get, if we get that, we seek better. Once we get up to a certain pinnacle, once we get that heartbreak, that shot down, we realize, we take a step further back, and we realize about how far it is that we can go up on this ladder based on what it is that we're able to attract and what it is that we're able to keep and how this person treats us, etc. So let's talk about that. Where did this idea? Did you go out seeking not for the very first person who poured their affections and their attentions onto you, but did you go out seeking for that first heartbreak? And then once you got that first heartbreak, you were like, okay, let me scale it back a little bit. And then, and you know what? Okay, and I get it. I saw the documentary. I understand the ideology. But for you, are you using that heartbreak to determine or to categorize or dictate your view of men worldwide, or men as a gender, or half of the population? Are you using little examples that happen to you or inside your family to color or skew your view of the entire male populace? So I need you to think about that. I also did a video in the Soul Love series, and I'd love for you to take a look at that. It's called Relationship Tic Tac Toe, and this will help you. It will help you create a chart which will help you disseminate some of these ideas and ideologies that created your views of, and also who it is that you choose to date. So you yourself, did the idea originally get implanted in you that men are not crap from the examples that you saw from the adult men around you, and then that set your expectation when you went out there, so that when you went out there you looked for men to confirm that men are not crap? Or did you have lessons that you needed to learn as a spiritual being, and you went from person to person thinking that that person was the problem, not really working on the issues that you have inside you? Which is also something I would suggest for you to watch my Soul Love series as well. And I'll put a link around here, or you can come to my website, TonyaTko.com, and you'll see the videos in that series. And these video series will really help you get through a lot of the programming that you've had as a woman. So let's go back, or let's go further. You as a woman, you have to think about the patterns that you've been participating in that have confirmed this idea that men are not crap, or that we don't need them, etc. Think about what patterns you've been participating in. After you got that first heartbreak, did you continue to go for that certain type of man? Did you not? And I talked about this on my Facebook page. The definition of insanity: doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. And then when you don't work on your issues and you attract these things into your life to confirm these things, there's a lot going on about why it is that we are here on earth. And the main thing that we're here for is soul development. So you cannot circumvent the lessons that you need to learn in this life. They'll keep showing up again and again until you deal with it. So let's talk about this. Let's talk about men in general. And we women, we sometimes regard ourselves, we like to even think of ourselves as grown girls. We regard ourselves as girls in grown-up bodies, or just little girls who have grown up, and sometimes we like to be treated as such, especially by our significant other. We like to be spoiled and pampered and made to feel, safe and protected, etc. And I think sometimes we take for granted that on the flip side, that though we regard ourselves as grown girls, on the flip side, we don't in kind regard men as grown boys. There's a metamorphosis that happens with men. And I think because of this physical metamorphosis, that we kind of take for granted that men are actually men and not grown boys. And if you look at I was reading this paper on the physical changes that happen to men, just anatomically. Their jaws widen, their shoulders stretch, they grow facial hair on the outside, and their bodies spread and they become larger. And I think it's once they go through these changes, their voices deepen. And when you look at a man, because of, if you look at Leonardo DiCaprio, remember when he was in Titanic, and he had very soft features, and if you look at him now, you can see the change in the spread that happened to him. And for some people who are older, if you look at John Travolta in some of his older videos, he was a thin little matchstick of a man, and now he's really spread out and grown. And I think this is part of what causes the confusion for a lot of us ladies, is that we look at men, and because physically they look like what it is that categorically we would describe or consider to be men, we don't realize that and even more so than girls, we don't realize what it is that the boys go through, because they grow up from these boys and then they are transported into these male bodies, into these grown men bodies. But a lot of the work, a lot of the emotional work that needs to be done to become an adult, to become a to be that grown man or that grown woman, a lot of the work that needs to be done is not done by men, because sociologically we discourage men from A, talking about their emotions, B, showing their emotions, and 3, being carried by or affected or even giving any semblance of having emotions. And when we think about how we socialize boys, oh, don't cry, don't this, don't that, and we do these things to boys. Don't express your emotions, be a man. We're telling little 3-year-old boys, be a man about it, man up, etc. And it's like, when you condition and when you constrict a person into, I mean, from very early on, you constrict a person into not having the capacity, capability, or the ability to be able to express human emotions or to be human, and then they grow up into these grown men bodies, these boys in these grown men avatars, and we wonder why at that point that they're not able to come back out and be able to express their emotions, to be able to show their emotions, when we have been hammering them down from their youth. So I really want us to take into account that a lot of the men that you see out there are broken boys in grown men's bodies. There are a lot of different things going on out there, and I'm telling you this because I get the opportunity to talk to a lot of different men across the board. And there are a lot of things going on, ladies, that you just don't know, because number one, they're not talking. When I talked about the development that men are not doing, they're not able to do the work because number one, we women, listen, we start to freak out if there's just so much. You know, if you go out and you're like, okay, I'm a grown girl in a woman's body and I need you to look after me and take care of me. And, you know, when you have a problem, you come to him and you want solutions and you want someone to cover you and you need that. But in turn, where comes the space and the capacity for him to be able to decompress or decompose the different things that he's learned? Where comes the time where he is able to express some of his insecurities, where he's able to talk about how he doesn't know it all, he doesn't have all the answers, and doggone it, he doesn't always know what to do? When does the time come for him to be able to let his guard down? And then when he does, do we freak out like, oh my God, I thought you would have the answers. You don't, like, you're soft, you're weak, I gotta get away from you. So, you know, so a lot of men keep a lot of these things inside. And, you know, I talk to men, and there are, you know, ladies, the men that you're going out there, listen, these men that you see, these with the hard scruffy beard and the big shoulders and, you know, the widened jawbones and the deep voice and all those muscles and everything, those same men, my goodness, there's a lot of un just unfigured out pain inside of them. A lot of these men have come from homes with violence. They've come from homes with different types of abuse, both verbal, emotional, psychological, and physical, and then also sexual. You know, I talked to a man who, at the age of 4, his babysitter had his face between her legs performing oral sex. Now, how does that affect a man growing up? And you know, there are so many men who not only get sexually abused by the women in their families or who under whose care they are, but there are men who have been sexually assaulted by other men. There are men who great number of things, but for some reason we don't consider or we don't really contemplate the sexual assault that happens to our boys, so much so that we talk to our daughters, but we really don't talk to our boys. And if we talk to our boys, we talk to them maybe about, some people are even encouraging, you know, and they make these jokes. There was a teacher another teacher having intercourse with a 13-year-old boy, and people are like, right on. I put this one of the times that my Facebook page was suspended. I shared this video of this little boy. He had to be about 3 years old, and there was this grown woman. She was like slapping him and egging him on, and she had his little tiny lingy out, and he was between her legs, like humping and banging on her area down there. And he was like really trying to. I don't know who trained this boy and what was going on, but there was some woman filming it, and they were laughing. And there were men who were writing and commenting on the video. They were like, yeah, that little N. It was a little like Spanish boy. They were like, yeah, that little N, he's getting it in. Little man knows what he's doing. And they're laughing. And we don't think about psychologically what type of effect this is going to have on, I mean, how does this boy ever regard sex healthfully if he, one, is not able to ever get any counseling about it, or two, doesn't even speak about it, or three, is congratulated for it? How does he, we can get into a whole entire video about sexual assault, but let's go on. Some of these men come from homes with drug abuse, alcoholism. Some of these men have had firsthand experience and account of death around them, either through violence or natural death, or a lot, just the loss of human life around them and the effect that this has on them. Some of them have no fathers in the home, and then some of them who may have fathers in the home have no good example of what a good father behaves or acts like. Because just because a person stays inside the home doesn't mean that they are good to that home. Some of these men have seen their fathers beating their mothers. Some of these men have been beat by their fathers. Some of these men some of these men with no fathers in the home are of the impression that fathers themselves are not needed. So when they, let's talk about that, because when they grow up, some of them feel that they're not needed in the home. Some of them were bashed by their mothers when they were boys, and then every mother is not a great mother either. I know sometimes we as women, we think about how wonderful we all are, but I mean, if you look around and you think about it, listen, there are a lot of women out there with some issues, and some of these women have children. And if you think about some of any number of things that you see, just vile, just women misbehaving. If you think about some of the highly promiscuous women who have children very young and very early on, leave their children. Some of these women who are addicted to let's talk about crack cocaine. When we start thinking about the generation that we're in right now, so many of us are going out there dating people who were born in the 80s. And in the 80s, was the boom, the crack boom of the century. And so many of the people who are now of dating age from the 80s have been directly affected by this crack era, either through people who are on crack in their families, either through being born a product of this, or whose father was sucked down into this, or in a family who someone was selling this. I mean, there's a lot going on. And when you think about all of this, when you think about the men that you're coming into contact with and what it is that they've learned, some of these men have no example, no example of what a healthy relationship looks like. And I want you to let that sink in. Some of these men have no example of what a father is like or what a man is supposed to be. And who was there to teach him what a man was to be, what a good man was to be? And how did these men learn about sex? Who taught them what sex was all about, how to engage in the act, what the act was for? Some of them have gotten ideas like this from other little boys about what it is that they should be doing. Go out there, get as much as you can, blah, blah, blah. Some of the fathers are not in the home, so some of them had to discover sex and their ideas about sex on their own. I'd love for you to ask some questions. Ask a man you're interested in dating. I did that video, 10 questions your mate must answer. I'll put the links around here, but ask. Where did you learn what the healthy relationship looks like? Who taught you how to have sex? Where did your ideas about sex come from? Who taught you how to be a man? Ask some of these questions, and you'll be surprised by a lot of the answers that you're getting, because a lot of these grown boys have had no instruction whatsoever. And not only that, they have no one to talk to. Other men are not really talking to them about it, because some of the men don't know themselves. And so this pattern continues, and it continues to perpetuate itself. So we look at men and we expect them to have all of the answers. But ladies, when we start talking about how men ain't shit and all of these other things, we continue and we perpetuate this, not only by putting that idea out there and letting it sink into other people. And I hope to God that some of you women who have children are not saying that in front of your children, either to your girls or your boys. We need to get into that in a whole other video. But I hope that you do the work that you need to do to let that idea come out of your own mind. Because if that's what you expect, that's what you will draw, and you will bring forth experiences that will confirm that for you. And I don't want you poisoning and programming the minds of the youth with this dysfunctional idea. So let's talk about who needs men. Who needs them? What do we need men for? There's so many things that we could talk about. The support. I could talk about how every single human being is half male. We need men to produce the whole population. We could talk about the balance that men provide in relationships, etc. But let's just talk. Let's go macrocosm. Let's talk about society as a whole. Who needs men? Ladies, if you really think about it, let's get down to the very basics and the very fundamentals of it. You're watching me on a computer, on a device. You're probably sitting on a chair, or maybe even at a desk. You're sitting in a building, and these are all things that were built by men, by the hands of men. When I talk about this physical change that men go through, at the very bare, let's even if you feel that you don't need a man in your relationship, which I think is pure and total utter nonsense anyway, but let's talk about as a society, the role that men play in society and the roles that women play. I think sometimes we take for granted just how important male influence is, or male contribution is, to societies as a whole. And I know there will be some women who will be like, oh, well, they're female construction workers, etc. And the female construction workers who are working out there they exhibit and exude a lot of masculine energy, and even them, pound for pound, are not as strong physically as men, and they don't have the same amount of testosterone to be able to give them the burst of energy and the burst of aggression and the ability to be able to get a lot of physical things done. So if you look at the buildings that we're in, the building that I'm in now, even if you use your imagination, you can imagine that this building was built by men's hands, and that men engage in the activities of a society that women, for the most part, have no interest in doing. I personally, as a woman, have no interest in picking up a hammer. I can't pick up a hammer, but I have no interest in spending my whole entire life with a hammer and some sheetrock and drilling and doing all that other stuff. If you think about the things that we want to do as women, and if we were in a society where there was only women, what would we live in? What would we live in? And we know that even if there was a society like what was the island of Lesbos, where the term lesbian comes from, even if we were in a world like the island of Lesbos or the planet of Lesbos, right, it would still get separated down the line. The feminine women and the very butch women, and the women who exude the masculine energies and tendencies would still be the ones who would be building and constructing. Even in lesbian relationships, there is one who exudes the more masculine energy, and the one who exudes the more feminine energy. But listen, we had a we had a lesbian young lady who worked at TKO Skin in the office, and you know what ended up happening? The rest of us were like, can you pick this up for us? Can you carry this? She was the one and she was not even a hard butch lesbian. She looked like a regular woman, but as the energy settled out inside of the office, she was the one who ended up really putting herself forth out there and really taking up a lot of the responsibility, not the responsibility, but taking up a lot of the actions that a person with more masculine energy would. We would ask her to get things off the high shelf, open things, carry things, and she was all right with that. She really was, because I think it just balances itself out. You know, men and women, we need each other. We really do. And I want us to be able to find ways that we can work with one another and be able to understand each other better. And I would love to do an entire video just dedicated to the purpose and the balance that men bring to us women. You know, and I don't want us, it seems like it's so comfortable for us to get into these debates or these arguments where we thrash men. You know, and it's like it seems to come so natural for us, and we have to get out of this. We have to really open up our minds and really see and look and know that most people are are doing the best that they can with the information that they have and the experiences that they've gone through. Most people are doing their very, very best. Some people just don't know better. You know, when we talk about any example of healthy relationships that we've had, I mean, think how what healthy relationships have, what examples of healthy relationships have you had? And how is that coloring your view? How is that changing who it is that you're bringing into your life and what it is that you are doing and participating in? I really want us to start analyzing ourselves and really opening up your heart. Really opening up your heart, even if a person is not the right person for you. Open up your heart to realize that this person is doing the best that they can. That man who broke your heart, you know, given the circumstances that he had gone through, what it was that he was raised knowing as what he considers to be truth, that he was acting out of a set of circumstances and he was doing the best that he could and he didn't know better. Didn't. And even if a person is not for you, I just want you to just listen, forgive, let that go, let it stay in the past, and realize that man was doing the best that he could. He may not be the right man for you. Find somebody else, but don't let that color your view of all men. Let's say, listen, how old are we? Let's say we're in our 30s, right? Even if we dated, let's say we started dating when we were 15, that's 15 years of dating. Even if we dated 2 men a year our entire lives, that's still only 30 men that we dated. So you can't use an example of 30 men to color the entire populace of men. So let that sink in. Rewind the video and share it around. I really want you to let this sink in. Let this sink in. And let's talk in our next Woman to Woman Wednesday video. Remember, you can find me right here on my website, TonyaTko.com. I'm on Facebook.com/TonyaTko Show. Twitter, Instagram, and Pinterest is at TonyaTko. And that's Tonya. Yes, with an O-T-O-N-Y-A. And I love you all very much. Let's hug. Let's hug. Oh, I love you guys so very, 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 very much. Okay. Listen, go out there and love one another, but most importantly, what? Love yourself, and get on the mailing list for my book that's being written. Get on the mailing list for that, and when that's done, I'll send you all a message. Okay? And give me your input. I talked about some of the things that we need men for. Please, I'd love to hear some more of your input below. I just talked about the infrastructure. We can go macro, we can go micro. What about garbage, plumbers? I mean, how many women do you know are interested in standing on the back of a garbage truck picking up trash bags? I mean, listen, let's go. Let's talk about it all. Anyway, TonyaTko, and I am out. Peace. Oh, I forgot to say, go out there and love one another. But what? Most importantly, love yourself. TonyaTko, and I'm out. Peace.